Hey everyone, and welcome back to Down Dissection. Today we have Kees Cornelisse from Dedicated to Art also on the show, and we're going to be talking his favorite band, which is Queen. Probably going to talk a little bit about the movie Bohemian Rhapsody, and mostly just what are some of his favorite songs of Queen, and why does he love them so much, and just how they've had an impact on him. So let's get started.
What'd the devil give you for your soul, Tommy?
Well, they taught me to play this here guitar real good.
Oh, son, for that you traded your everlasting soul?
Well, I wouldn't use it.
Hey Case, how you been, man?
Hello, glad to be here. My first appearance in the show. Looking forward to talking about some Queen because, as you said, yes, they're my favorite band.
Yeah, and what's cool about that for me, like being friends with you and knowing that they're your favorite band, is it's classic rock, which I feel like not that many people say, oh, my favorite band is this classic rock band. And then also, I don't know, they're a really fun, out there band. Like they don't make music that other people make. They were all their own.
Yeah.
They had their own style in every way, shape, and form. But what I'm curious about is, how did you kind of discover them? Was it growing up? Was it once you were an adult? And like, what about them kind of makes them your favorite band?
Well, the thing is, I am usually not really into this music. I listen to different music, as I've said on like the Who Cares Anyway podcast, where I usually just listen to electronic music. But I can essentially listen to any type of music. But what it was for me about Queen, I got to know, like, of course, I knew some of their songs when I was younger, but I really got more into them as I got older, where I got to appreciate what they did. Because that's also something that you can see in the movie Bohemian Rhapsody, where they just did something that is completely different from what everyone else did. They experimented a lot with songs. There's a big moment in the movie where Bohemian Rhapsody gets released, and the initial reaction was that everyone was like, "Oh, this is not great. This is not a good song. This is overrated. Why did they make it 6 minutes? It's way too long." Because songs are usually about 2 or 3 minutes, and because of that backlash, it just shows they weren't afraid to experiment. They weren't afraid to put themselves out there, and now years later, they're regarded as one of the best.
And I don't know anybody that hasn't heard Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh yeah, yeah,
pretty popular.
And the funny thing is, that's probably how I know them the most, from Bohemian Rhapsody, because every year in the Netherlands, we have a top 2,000 songs. One of the radio stations does it, and they ask for the Dutch audience to vote on that, and it's a really big, popular thing. It's been that for over 20 years, I believe, and everyone just votes on that, and almost every single year, the number one is Bohemian Rhapsody. There have been a few exceptions sometimes. Sometimes the number two, which is the Hotel California by the Eagles, will be number one. But usually it's Bohemian Rhapsody, and that's just, I mean, it's kind of true, because it's definitely one of the greatest songs of all time. I don't know if it's my favorite Queen song, but I love it.
Yeah, the way that it's put together, and it tells this weird, disjointed, epic story.
Yes.
It goes from different style to different style,
Yeah.
and kind of covers the wide range. That's so funny that it goes from being a song that everyone's like, what the hell am I listening to then in some countries, such as the Netherlands, it's like the most popular song by whatever metrics they were using. So that's really interesting to see. But I guess in that case, if it's not your favorite song, what would be your favorite song? Can you nail it down to just one?
It's difficult because they have a lot of great tracks, and also for different reasons. Because Queen, they've had like this growth over the years, where they when they started, I believe one of their first really big hits was Killer Queen, and that is a great song, first and foremost. And then you have Bohemian Rhapsody, which was really huge. And over the years that they've evolved, it also just goes with when Freddie changes his hairstyle from long to short and the mustache, then also their musical style changes. And also that's kind of because it's a decade later already, because they were at it for like 2 decades. They were at it for a while. Of course, unfortunately, Freddie Mercury passed away, so we don't know what might have happened if they had continued. But like, for example, another one, Bites the Dust. It's different from what they did in their as their early work, but it's still an awesome song. But in the end, like when that always gets me to sing and just get crazy is "Don't Stop Me Now." I mean, that song's just awesome, and it really is like, yeah, let's have a good time. It's like it gets you pumped up. At least it gets me pumped up, and that's definitely one of my favorites.
And it's always fun when that one comes on. Like for me, because I'll just have my classic rock playlist and Queen songs will pop up. And it's usually when Don't Stop Me Now and then Flash. When those ones come on, like I always start driving a little bit faster and I'm like, jamming out to the music because there's something about the energy that they bring.
Yeah.
That, I mean, obviously a rock band is a rock band, right? But the way that they progress through the songs and sort of, I mean, vocals, but also when you have like little orchestral bits in the background and when you listen to Flash with lines from the movie and just all the different ways that they approach it. Actually, have you seen the Flash Gordon movie?
I haven't seen Flash Gordon. I know about it, of course, because it's a huge inspiration to Star Wars. But of course, I know the theme song. It pops up at so many places. It's been spoofed also several times. I remember the other day, very recently, I watched the episode of South Park, Major Boobage, where they essentially spoof it a little bit. At least that's what it seems like to me. And they also use a type of song that really is like Flash, and it's just really funny. So yeah, with that, they needed to make more of they needed to make a song for a TV show / movie, in this case, that was already a known property. And I think they did pretty well.
And it's funny, I think also, like, you have movies like the Ted movies that...
Oh, yeah, where it shows up.
Kind of... Yeah, they turn Flash into something like, oh, it's this beloved thing from the 80s, but I don't think that many people are actually obsessed with it, so I don't know. It's hard to say. I think there's a divide.
Tony Stark calls Star-Lord that in Infinity War. We're done listening to Flash Gordon here. Flash Gordon, by the way, that's a compliment. It's
yeah,
funny.
I would think so, especially for someone as like, someone like Star-Lord who's just stumbling through life.
Well, because he doesn't know about Earth after the 80s. So he's just stuck in the 80s forever, and he knows that Flash Gordon is a huge thing. I mean, it's not anymore, but for him it is. Right. Same as where he says Footloose is still the greatest movie of all time. It never was.
And he's all offended, yeah. And that's what I think you had kind of that thing in the 80s too. And this is where I'll say another thing that sets Queen apart is because Queen gets tapped to do the soundtrack for Flash. Mm-hmm. And then right around the same time with Dune, Toto gets tapped to do the Dune soundtrack, and they approach it from a very orchestral, I mean, it fits a David Lynch film where it's very slow and ponderous and all of that, but you have way more color and way more action with Queen, and they're willing to just go out there. Like, they're willing to go out on a limb and be wild. And I think when you look at that's reflected in all the members too, because with Brian May's guitar playing, I mean, I'm not going to say that he's necessarily the best guitar player of his era. I mean, there's a lot of other people that would give him a run for his money.
Jimi Hendrix.
But, right, yes, of course. And then also you have Eddie Van Halen. Yeah. So, but I think what sets him apart is when you're able to back up, I mean, you're essentially a backup for Freddie Mercury. And when you're able to back up those vocals, but still, you know, come out on top in his own way. And obviously,
Well, what you do see in a lot of the Queen songs is they do often have a guitar solo, where they just have a moment where Freddie Mercury stops singing and really the guitar gets a shine, like in the Bohemian Rhapsody. And actually, in a song that I only discovered through Baby Driver, which was crap.
Brighton Rock.
Brighton Rock, yes, exactly. Where, yeah, actually, they talk about that when Baby's talking to John Hamm's character, Buddy, Jason, is the actual name of the character. Then Buddy asks him, like, do you have like a killer, a killer track, a song that really is for you? And he's like, sure.
Right.
What is it? Brighton Rock? Queen? Yes. So, and then he's like, yeah, I got a killer guitar solo. So, yeah, and it's funny that I hadn't heard of that song at all, and then I hear it in Baby Driver, and I'm like, this song is great. Where was this?
I know. I was really surprised too. I'm not saying like I don't listen to like every album they have all the way through, but I was surprised that there was a song that was that good by them that I had never heard of. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
you know, I can't believe this doesn't make it into more of the, you know, the greatest hits compilations.
Yeah.
And another instance too, where Brian May really shines through is you have We Will Rock You, which essentially is just, you know, the stomp and clap that everybody knows, and then the vocals, but then at the end he's able to kind of shine through, and I really like that.
Yeah, with We Will Rock You, this is explained in the movie as well. What they wanted to do is make a track that the audience can perform, and that's why you have the doom doom clap. And when you have that for most of the song, then it's really like, how do you elevate the song from a song that the audience can just perform and just that to something that is also a great track? And that's where they put in some great lyrics for Freddie Mercury, and indeed at the end the guitar. So that's what really elevates that track, besides just being a song that the audience can perform.
Right. And it's interesting too with, I mean, every band is influenced by people that came before them.
Yeah.
But the thing with Queen is they have such a wide, you know, array, or such a wide audience, that I think over the years they've had a huge influence. Like, I know Guns N' Roses, Megadeth, and I know who else Marilyn Manson was one that I remember being kind of surprised when he was like, you know, Queen being a huge, and then Michael Jackson as well.
Yeah.
So they, and Lady Gaga too. That was another that I remember reading about, where like Queen,
Lady Gaga literally named herself after a song of Queen.
Right, exactly. So you have, you know, these, because a lot of those are acts that are known for their, you know, antics, especially Lady Gaga, Michael Jackson. It was all about, and Marilyn Manson. It's all about it's about the pageantry as much as the performance. And I think that was why people were so interested in Queen. They kept their audiences interested on the outside as well as just with their music, but the way that, you know, they performed. And so that actually, I'm interested, because we've talked a little bit about the Bohemian Rhapsody film.
Yes.
And, you know, there's been plenty of controversy surrounding it.
It's mostly the director.
Ways. Right, exactly. The director, and then, you know, it gets attention for its editing, but people, you know, say that it's some of the worst editing they've ever seen. And I haven't seen the movie myself.
Okay.
I've just seen clips of it. So my question for you is, do you think, one, it's a good movie?
I love it.
And also, do you think it does a good job of honoring their legacy, most especially Freddie Mercury's?
I do. Yeah, the thing with the editing is that some people indeed have shown like a couple of clips where there were a couple of scenes where the camera just goes from one to another to another to another to another very quickly, and it's like, why is it cutting so much? And to be fair, I have actually rewatched the movie last week, and what I noticed about that scene is the moment that it's cutting, there's no dialogue. It's just showing, like it's essentially an introductory scene where the band Queen is meeting a guy played by Aidan Gillen, Littlefinger himself, and I'm not entirely sure who he is again, but he is one of the people who will get them further. Like I'm not sure if he's a manager or
Right,
something.
I think he was.
Something
I think
along
he
those
was one of
lines.
the producers.
Yeah.
On for one of the labels.
And it's like whatever, you know. I don't really care about how it's edited there. The reason that I want editing mostly is because of Live 8, the entire last scene, the concert that they do, because that scene is brilliant and very well edited as well. So I can see, to be fair, their movies last year, at least the ones that were nominated, weren't that well edited, in my opinion, anyway. So I'm like, you know what, whatever, just give it to Queen. Because yes, the Live Aid at the end is amazing, and I think that's really the culmination of the movie, where the movie starts with showing their essentially first of all how they got together, then their first big hit, Killer Queen, that was huge. Then, of course, the making of Bohemian Rhapsody. It's named after. I mean, the movie's named after it. And then, of course, how they continue after Bohemian Rhapsody, because that's kind of a part where a lot of people don't know how what went down, and mostly with Freddie Mercury, because Freddie, at least according to the movie, and I assume that's based on reality, is kind of a lonely guy, even though he had a great voice and he was very good in terms of putting on a performance. He didn't have that many people surrounding him in real life that actually liked him. And sometimes he kind of just, at one point, he throws a party. He wants the biggest party, wants to invite everyone just for attention. But yeah, it just shows that he had a little bit of a difficult time. And I think that that the movie shows it really well. Rami Malek is amazing. He definitely deserved the Oscar. No one else did, despite the fact that he doesn't sing. I know. But to be fair, that two things could have happened. Either you could have made him sing and he sounds nothing like Freddie Mercury, and people would have complained about that, because Freddie Mercury does have a very distinctive, iconic voice.
There's no faking it.
Or you do what they did and you just use whenever Freddie is singing, then use the actual voice of Freddie Mercury, and for the rest just have Rami Malek talk. And I think it worked really well, because you do Rami Malek did capture the mannerisms of Freddie Mercury very well. And I totally believed him as the character. When I see that movie, I see Freddie Mercury. I don't see Rami Malek putting on a performance. And then it culminates in the Live Aid concert where they perform some of their greatest hits, which is that scene is just amazing. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you think about the rest of the film. Yes, the director is a piece of shit, but it's a well-made movie, and the Live Aid at the end, I think it's about 20 or 30 minutes. It is so great. And for me as a big Queen fan, all throughout the movie, I'm singing along with the songs. Which I was just loving. Also, just the making of Bohemian Rhapsody, I was kind of interested to see how that went down, and how did they fucking decide to put in a slow start and then have the guitar and then have somebody scream on the top of his lungs Galileo a couple of times, because seriously, it's really funny when they get to that part where the guy needs to sing Galileo and they need to re-record it, and the guy's like, how many fucking times do you have to do this?
And this high, operatic falsetto voice.
Exactly.
Not easy on the vocal cords.
not at all. But he pulled through, and it was pretty funny to see that. I really loved it. I think it told the story well, especially of Freddie Mercury, but also his relation to the band, because it clearly shows that he is very eccentric, very out there, and sometimes the band doesn't agree with that because he makes certain decisions for the band. The band is like, we're Queen. It's not Freddie Mercury. If we want Freddie Mercury, you have to go solo, but they don't want to go solo because they know that Queen is a household name that can go far.
Right.
There's actually a little bit of talk at one point where, his producers / managers are like talking, hey, what if you go solo? Because look what happened with Michael Jackson. He was in the Jackson 5, went solo, and now it's Michael Jackson. Nobody even remembers the Jackson 5. Everyone remembers Michael Jackson. There are talks about that. Of course, we know that doesn't happen, but it just shows there are talks about that, and I thought that was interesting.
And I think that turmoil and that eccentricity goes into their music because you have the random songs like Bicycle Race and Flash obviously being themed, but still it's a random song for a band of that era to have done, and then Bohemian Rhapsody being another famous one, and but all in all, I think that it's important that they channeled sort of his loneliness and like their not like discomfort necessarily, but just them not getting along. They channeled that into their music and made something crazy with it.
And probably the most out there video clip, not necessarily the song, but the video clip is "I Want to Break Free," where he dresses up in drag. It's just that video clip is so random, right? But it's just Freddie Mercury doing Freddie Mercury. It just shows how out there he was.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it's interesting how, again, once music videos really became a thing with MTV and all of that, I mean, bands constantly had to push the envelope further and further. I mean, there are some weird ones out there, especially like from Van Halen, and Kiss had some really weird music videos, but Queen, as always, had to push it even further and kind of, I don't know, shock value, really, I think, is how they were making their money at that point. So, but it's interesting, and I think that, again, I haven't seen the movie, but I'm glad to hear that they at least get the concert scenes right, because that was a thing with the movies like, Straight Outta Compton. Those concert scenes were really well done, and if you don't nail the feeling of something that, we can't experience a Queen concert. No. We're not going to be able to experience a Straight Outta Compton concert. So if you can get the feeling of the Live Aid performance or any other, or at least as close as you can.
With Straight Outta Compton, I personally thought that the strongest part was the build up towards that first big concert where they sing "Fuck the Police," because at the point that they perform that song, you feel the police. Fuck them, fuck every single person in it, and their and the racism that they want to continue to do, because they're extremely racist at that time. Like every black person needs to be arrested for no good reason really, but they want to arrest them because it's a very racist time. My biggest issue with Straight Outta Compton is that the ending is kind of weak, and they didn't. That's where I do think Bohemian Rhapsody is a lot better, where it really builds up to the Live Aid. And with Straight Outta Compton, they peaked early and then never got to that point again.
Right, yeah. And when you're capturing a legacy like that, because like you were saying, we aren't Queen, or we aren't, the Freddie Mercury band or whatever. We are Queen. But it basically at this point in culture, no one really knows the rest of the band. No. They really just know Freddie Mercury, and part of that was because of his passing and just leaving his work unfinished, I suppose. But I think another part of that is just who he was on stage and in public life, and the way that I think.
Well, it's the way he presented himself to the world. Everyone knew him because of the way that he presented himself. And like, despite the fact that everything is called Queen, if you ask a regular person, name the members of Queen, everyone will say Freddie Mercury,
maybe Brian May, and that's about all you're getting. And I think that, but that honesty that he had does also come through in the music, because you're not just getting, you do have your stadium, anthemic songs like We Will Rock You, We're the Champions, even Killer Queen is like
by the way, speaking of We're the Champions, way to create a song that will be played at every single instance where a team, doesn't matter what sport, becomes champion.
Right. Yeah. Yes. And it's an emotional song too. Even like it makes you feel like you just won something, and all you're doing is like sitting on the couch or driving around listening to it.
It's built up well. It's built up in a way that you feel the journey of because essentially everyone knows how it is to go through, or most people know how it is to go through a journey in terms of sports, where it's very tough at the beginning. You might lose, and losing sucks. But if you then finally get to a point where you start winning and you get on a hot streak and you become the champion, and then you get, we are the champion, you feel it. It's like, yes.
And I can imagine you probably had that song playing through your head at your soccer match or football match the other day.
No, I didn't, because I'm a Liverpool fan, and Liverpool has the theme, You'll Never Walk Alone. So I was singing that one.
That's a good one too. And who did they beat out?
Tottenham Hotspur. It was their first appearance in the final of the Champions League. It's an English team as well. But everyone already knew Tottenham didn't deserve to be in that final, and it showed. But
didn't they get blown out
happy.
Essentially? Didn't Tottenham get blown out by Liverpool essentially?
Not really. Then again, neither team really played well, but Tottenham never really had a chance. Their closest chances were when we're talking about sports.
No, I know. It's interesting to me because, I mean, first of all, this is a British band, so that's excuse
true.
enough.
That's true.
But also, it's interesting because, I don't know. I don't watch much. Well, I don't know. I was going to say like football. That's how I know it, but soccer. But yeah. It doesn't have the appeal necessarily to me, but it's still interesting to see. I mean, it's the most popular sport in the world, so there's something to be said for that.
And this was the biggest cup that a club can win in Europe, because it's a European. But of course, the biggest clubs in the world are in Europe. So the fact that Liverpool won it, I'm very happy with that.
That's awesome. Well, again, man, thanks for coming on. It was so much fun to talk some Queen.
Yeah.
I love just getting into the weeds as far as classic rock goes, because, I mean, we've talked about so far a lot of like metal bands up to this point, but it's sometimes nice to go back to, okay, where did the influences come from for these bands over the years? Even if it wasn't a direct influence, Queen set the bar
it did
at a certain spot, and people have just been constantly working to raise that. And where popular music is nowadays, that's the thing. Queen was pop back in the day, and now no one listens to that sort of music that much anymore. So it was kind of cool to talk about it, and talk about the legacy.
I listen to it.
Right, exactly. Well, that's good, because somebody has to.
Yes.
Yeah. Otherwise, what's the point of having it? But again, thanks for coming on, man, and it was great talking to you. Where can everybody find you?
Well, thank you for inviting me. I always like to talk about music that I do like, because as you say, you talk about metal, that's just not my forte. I don't listen to that.
Yeah, no. So I was like, I need to figure out an excuse to get Kees on this show. I was like, that's right. Queen is his favorite band.
Indeed. Anyway,
we'll get you on to talk Rage Against the Machine some other day or something.
Yeah, no. Meanwhile, you can find me at Dutch Movie Guy on Twitter, Kees Cornelisse on Letterboxd and Facebook, and I think that's about it. Check out the Who Cares Anyway podcast, where I'm off and on every Friday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on Dedicated to Art.
Last week we had on Zach Stentz, the writer of Thor. So definitely go check that out. Thor and First Class.
X-Men First Class, yes.
So many other nerdy things. I know Chris was ready to talk all this Andromeda stuff with him. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. But anyway, thanks for joining us, guys.
actually that interview because he mentioned that his new his new movie, Rim of the World, was a combination of Alien and Stand By Me. I had seen Alien, I hadn't seen Stand By Me. I have seen it since, and I really liked it. So
there you go. There's the recommendation. Stand By Me, and Alien. If you haven't seen Alien,
oh,
I think we're at like the 40th anniversary.
Yes, it
so
is. If you haven't seen
on.
Alien yet, I don't know what's wrong with you as a film fan.
Yeah, in space, no one can hear you scream, but we're not in space. You can hear me right now, and I'm telling you, make sure you're coming back every Saturday to Down-Tuned Dissection. Next week, I'll have Chris back on. We're going to be talking. Well, I won't say what we'll be talking, but it's going to be exciting. You definitely want to hear it. And thanks again for joining me, Kees. And until next time, guys, I'll see you in the pit.